passionate about scales might be the most odd thing for many people to hear, but I hope that through this short webcast of me talking, playing, sharing some of the studies that I have used throughout my playing and teaching life, I will infuse you with the enthusiasm of the multi-purpose use of studies. In this webcast, devoted to the riches attained from embracing studies within your training session and the immense benefits studies will give to you and your playing, I will focus on 5 specific areas which have proven so beneficial to me, both as a player and a teacher. 1. Tone, the sound we make, and intonation. 2. Injury recovery and building stamina. 3. Returning to playing after a break of perhaps weeks, months, or years. 4. Fitness on your additional instrument. 5. Performance training. In sharing my personal journey and how studies have and continue to be a central part of my training sessions and ongoing development as a musician, I hope this webcast will encourage you to explore the benefits to be found from learning and playing studies and including studies as part of your warm-up. Tone, the sound we make, and intonation can be super sensitive, whether in our private practice training session or in a more public playing setting. And by that, I include rehearsals as well as performance. It can be difficult to remain objective when there are some fundamental tonal and intonation considerations which need to be attended to or indeed developed. In this context, melodic studies make an ideal proving ground. Within the context of a study, it is easier to remain more objective and less pressured to get it right, as might be felt within a piece of repertoire, particularly where external pressures, along with personal expectations, can lead to impatience. For learning our craft in terms of intonation and tonal quality beyond scales and exercises, studies make an ideal stepping stone to pieces. They can also prove incredibly enjoyable. There are many fabulous study books with collections which emulate styles from Baroque and classical to Romantic and contemporary. One such book, which encompasses classical to romantic styles and has lots to choose from, all in the keys, is The Finest Etudes for Clarinet, edited by Rudolf Maus. The level of studies range from about grade 5 to grade 8 and beyond. Even if some of the studies might initially seem a bit of a stretch initially for some players, there will still be huge benefits in learning a portion of the study. You can be sure that as your playing develops, so too will your desire to learn more of these studies. Returning to playing after physical or mental illness can be extremely scary, with emotions on high alert and fears such as, what will be the state of my playing? Will it ever return to where it was before? Depending on the injury, will returning to playing cause a setback to recovery? These are just some of the concerns I faced when returning to playing after major surgery back in 2016. Due to the nature of the surgery, I won't go into details, and after 12 weeks bed rest, I was not sure whether I would have enough strength in my core abdominal muscles to ever return to playing again. It was an extremely fearful time. Once I had got beyond the first step, which was certainly the hardest, and feeling I had enough core strength to work with, studies gave me a context in which I could gently build my stamina while keeping my eager and ambitious nature in check. Had I put repertoire that I was scheduled to play on the stand too soon, I would have risked a major setback, which could have put me back on the operating table. Restraint is incredibly important in injury recovery and building up stamina. Equally, it is important psychologically as well as physically that we feel we are reconnecting with our playing and building our practical facility as well as our confidence and capability as players. Once again, studies offer a framework where we can build back our playing in a systematic way, setting playing chunks which are appropriate to the stage of recovery. If that means 4 bars or 8 bars or 3 lines, it feels far less upsetting than doing the equivalent in a piece. There are many wonderful study books, including those written by Paul Harris. A study book which has been part of my learning as a student and I still use in my teaching is 50 Classical Studies, edited by Pamela Weston. Ranging from grade 2-3 to beyond grade 8, it is a super appropriate in the context of recovery. With the scope to grow through this book, with the earlier studies being quite short, all the studies will feel musically very rewarding and will get the brain back in gear for processing musical instruction, engaging the ear and getting the finger facility, tone, articulation back on track, which will in turn build that all essential confidence. Returning to playing after an extended break shares many practical and psychological similarities with returning after physical or mental illness. Any extended break, whatever the reason, can make returning a very scary business. Aside from the practical fears such as tone quality, finger facility, breath capacity, to name just a few. There is the physical pain, such as a sore thumb or mouth for a wind player, and of course, finding a reed. Confidence, never mind determination, can meet with huge resistance as psychological fears and emotions running high, self-image, self-credibility under threat. Then there's the self-recrimination. I would always say to any student, whatever age or level at which they left playing, while it might take huge courage to even take the instrument out of its case and play that first note, your determination will be rewarded. To this, I would advise to beware of avoidances, such as what I call decoy tasks. Make sure to replace that judgment voice with the voice that applauds your determination and motivation in the face of huge resistance. Because you're playing again, and that should be good reason to feel a sense of achievement. Playing a study or studies that you have played before, or perhaps just taking a favourite study book and playing through the beginning of each study in that book, can be a great way to tempt you back to playing. Playing studies can also help to build stamina. Familiarity with a study or studies, particularly in the fragile early days and weeks when returning, can be of huge benefit. Put a post-it note or bookmark in the pages so that the study or studies you have selected to play are quickly accessible, which is really important. Often, a student who has returned to playing after an extended break has constraints on the time they can devote to practice training within their working day. While I would always encourage devoting even just 5 minutes to scales and exercises, if time is short, melodic, contemporary or jazzy studies can build technical proficiency as well as being musically fulfilling. A great book with a broad choice of studies as well as including exercises, and one that I often refer to, is The Clarinet, a Comprehensive Method by Frederick Thurston and Alan Frank. This book includes short little studies for the beginner to studies for the advanced player, with orchestral solos at the end. Within each key related chapter, there is a fast and slow study, so oodles to choose from and terrific for the growth of you and your playing. Maintaining fitness on your additional instrument, potentially neglected in the cupboard, can be difficult to manage, particularly within time constraints. Aside from the practical reasons of keeping your doubling instruments up to standard, it also opens the possibility for new playing or teaching opportunities. But keeping up your doubling skills on your related instrument is extremely valuable and will enhance your principal instrument. When I move from B-flat clarinet to E-flat or bass clarinet, it gives me the opportunity to increase my awareness of the subtleties in many aspects of the different instruments, not least embouchure, tone, intonation, but also finger placing and fingerings of certain notes, basically keeping cognitive and practical awareness. Equally, when I move to each of the saxophones, I love the challenge of, for instance, the left hand round the palm keys, which for a clarinet player puts the hand in a very different position. Then there is the tonal production and the different way I use and produce vibrato on the saxophone, be it the soprano, alto or tenor, in comparison to the clarinet. Studies are terrifically helpful in staying connected with your doubling instrument, not least if time to devote to your doubling instrument is limited. Studies, once again, are a terrific resource for keeping that connection while also giving the opportunity to play repertoire you might not always play on your principal instrument. For saxophone players, doubling on clarinet, playing in a more classical or romantic genre, could prove a delightful contrast. As a clarinet player, I really rarely have the opportunity to play in a jazzy style. There are many terrific jazz and contemporary inspired studies, including many by James Ray. Two which I find continue to be really terrific in my own training and that of my students are The Seven Chakra by Jeffrey Wilson and Sax Scorcher's 20 Hot Studies for Saxophone, compiled and edited by Nigel Wood. What I also feel is appealing about both these books is that each study has a name. For instance, Sax Roasters, In Limbo, or within the Seven Chakra, Manipura. To include at least one of your doubling instruments in your practice training sessions, studies will prove invaluable on so many levels, as well as being musically extremely fulfilling. For performance training within your practice training sessions, studies are terrific. Unlike a piece of repertoire which depends on the complexity, but even if technically less demanding, building an understanding of the piece and interpretation cannot be rushed. In addition, much of our solo repertoire is with piano. Therefore, gaining regular performance experience, be it within training sessions or lessons, can be intermittent. While studies might be considered as part of the behind closed doors activity, I would encourage you to consider otherwise. Of the many benefits which can be derived from studies, they will prove a fantastic training opportunity for performance, which I continue to use in my own training sessions and also for my students. Regular performance of studies will also prove invaluable preparation for exams and auditions, as well as not shying away from including solo pieces in a concert. With this in mind, a piece, while not officially a study, but a piece I use as a study in my training sessions for tonal control, support, breath fitness, colour control, and so much more, is the third movement from Paul Harris's B-flat Sonatina, which Paul wrote for me.
I hope that through the 5 topics that I've shared with you throughout this webcast and the ideas that it might inspire you to dig through your study books, to perhaps to explore new study books,